We're here today to receive public recommendations and input regarding the Minimum Foundation Program for fiscal year 2016-17. We're required to hold this public hearing each year. Recommendations from this hearing will be received and considered by the board. The board will consider our fiscal year 2016-2017 Minimum Foundation Program proposal. According to the Constitution, a proposed program must be shared with the governor and legislature prior to the regular legislative session. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the committee, please fill out a comment card and give it to a Bessie staff person. Please note that those wishing to speak may only make recommendations for the Minimum Foundation Program in 16-17. No other comments will be received at this time. No board discussion will occur. We're only here to receive those recommendations. If I could go ahead and get a roll call, please.
Okay. Dr. Holly Bophy.
Here.
Dr. Bophy is present. Mr. Tony Davis.
Here.
Mr. Davis is present. Ms. Donna Edmonston.
Here.
Ms. Edmonston is present. Mr. James Garvey.
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Ms. Sandra Holloway. Ms. Holloway is present. Dr. Gary Jones.
Present.
Dr. Jones is present. Ms. Jada Lewis.
Present.
Ms. Lewis is present. Ms. Kira Orange Jones.
Present.
Ms. Orange Jones is present. Mr. Thomas Rock.
Present.
Mr. Rock is present. Dr. Lori Thomason.
Present.
Dr. Thomason is present. Ms. Doris Vautier.
Here.
Ms. Vautier is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we'll start with the comments. Can I welcome Mr. Michael Falk to the microphone, please? Please state your name and the organization you're with before you begin.
My name is Michael Falk. I'm Superintendent of Schools, Central Community School System, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents and also a member of the MFP Task Force. And I would like for the committee and the board to consider the motion that was made at the task force meeting, which will be incorporated into the minutes that you receive at your Administration and Finance Committee. And that motion was that the board include in the proposed 2016-17 Minimum Foundation Program formula the high-cost services, an additional $5.4 million, the supplemental course allocation, an additional $2.6 million, as well as incorporating the funding previously provided in accordance with House Concurrent Resolution 231 of the 2015 regular legislative session to local education agencies to sustain teacher pay increases to be used in the same manner as in the 2015-16 fiscal year. That resolution was offered by then Representative John Bell Edwards and now the governor of the state of Louisiana. I realized it's probably not good following Commissioner Darden, but I felt this needed to go into the record. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Sean Fleming, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of Bessie, and congratulations on your new appointments. I would also like to, I'm Sean Fleming with Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. I'd also like to express support for the funding for the high-cost funds for students with disabilities, for students with extraordinary needs. My understanding is that money is only going to cover about 2/3 of the cost of students whose costs are 3 times what a typical student would cost. So it's still putting a severe burden on local school districts, but in not being the full 100%, but it's better than nothing, as my son would tell me. The other thing, and this isn't specifically for next year's MFP, but I guess it is there's the continuing disagreement over how the MFP is being distributed. It's in the MFP task force, and Ms. Voiche, you're the one who I think made the motion to correct that, and there was supposed to be a request for an expedited Attorney General's opinion on what's going, whose opinion and how it's being interpreted in terms of how the funding is actually being distributed to schools, and that has not been done. So I really this has been going on for 4 years. I really wish it does not continue, that there is resolution to the distribution and the interpretation of the MFP.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call up the next three. If you want to go ahead and take a seat, we have Scott Rashard, Steve Monahan, and Debbie Moe.
Good morning. I'd like to congratulate all of our Bessie members who were elected and those who are appointed. My name is Debbie Moe. I represent the Louisiana Association of Educators. I am not going to be long. I would like to echo what our Superintendent Mike Falk just presented to you. I'm a part of the MFP Commission that studies the MFP and makes recommendations to you as the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. I fight for the children of Louisiana, and I know that the state is in dire financial straits, but I believe that we need to continue to move forward. We cannot move backward. We must make sure that the children of this state are taken care of. They are our future. We cannot shortchange them in any way. We also need to take care of our teachers, our school employees. We need to make sure that they are being resourced as best can be. I know that the MFP is a minimum foundation. It does not fund our school systems to the maximum that they would need, but we need to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to resource them well. I would urge that you would strongly consider the resolution that was sent to you by the MFP Commission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Steve Monahan, President of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, and also a member of the long-serving member of the MFP Task Force. So I won't belabor the comments either. I think Mr. Falk put things on the table in regard to how we feel, and as we expressed it in the motion at the MFP Task Force. I do want to thank you, though, and use the opportunity to thank you guys for stepping up to serve, both the appointees and the elected members, what is often a thankless job. It's not necessarily a pleasant experience to get up here and follow the commission or the administration, given the fact that we all know and we read the newspapers of how dire our straits seem to be. But I think we'll all agree that it seems to be always darkest before the dawn. And I would urge you as Bessie board members, and particularly new board members serving the first time, to pay particular attention to the special session that is sure to come. And whether or not we're able to complete what the recommendations are by the task force will depend upon, in large order, how successful the governor and the legislature is in raising funds and correcting what is now known as the structural deficiencies of our tax code. So thank you for your service. I hope that we are all going to be working together to get the funds that children need, that our teachers need, our schools need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bessie members, Happy New Year. Thank you for putting yourself into the position of public service focused on education for our state. Scott Rashard, representing the Louisiana School Boards Association, 69 locally elected school boards around the state, 643 elected school board members. Happy to be with you this morning and looking forward to working collaboratively as elected and appointed officials at the state level and at the local level, working to ultimately improve student achievement. We can't have those discussions about improving student achievement if we don't talk about finances. It's important that we come to the table today and advocate for the students of Louisiana, the over 700,000 students that attend schools in the portfolio model that we have in Louisiana. where public tax dollars are used to fund education. The over 140 charter schools, the many traditional public schools, and the 69 school systems. And over the years, the last 3 years specifically, we've been able to work collaboratively with Bessie and Superintendent White and the legislature, because it takes all of us advocating together to ensure that adequate resources are found and identified and routed to all of the various entities that provide public education in our state. The purpose of this hearing is to talk about that state funding formula. Over the last 3 years, we've been able to increase funding at the state level to the tune of about $250 million, $250 million, for numerous various programs that we're very proud of. And it was through the work of the MFP task force and working collaboratively and putting differences aside to make that happen. We realize that there's serious concerns across the street which affect all of us, not only in this building, but in every school system and in every LEA, local education agency across the state. Come to you this morning echoing the same comments from the MFP task force recommendations that we'll get to a little bit later in the agenda. Even though there are serious budget problems, it's important that we advocate for those 700,000 plus students across the state to always work to increase dollars with accountability. And you'll be dealing with that later in your agenda today when you look at the 70% requirement item in regards to the MFP. And at the end of the day, we believe at the School Boards Association that by working with you and the state superintendent and the legislature and the spirit of collaboration, that we can find dollars by the end of the regular session to do what the MFP task force has suggested to you all and the legislature. I provided you with a copy of extractions from MFP tables just for resource information. One of the internal problems, and Mr. Fleming from the Disabilities Council hit on it earlier, one of the internal problems that we all struggle with the formula itself and funding, and this directly is applicable to next year's MFP, is how dollars are being rerouted to other LEAs, which are impacting local school boards tremendously, as you can see on the chart. It's not a discussion or a debate about one model of education programming or the other. It's purely a financial issue that we would hope to address, and I'll be referring to this document later on in the agenda, and it's directly related to next year's MFP and the work of the stakeholders that deal with the MFP, which includes you very intimately with all of the other stakeholders in our state. So thank you for taking these comments this morning. Be glad to discuss this later on in the agenda, and I'll be referring to it for other agenda items directly related to next year's MFP. Look forward to a positive 2016, and we are here to assist. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers this morning for your input, recommendations that were taken into consideration in the development of the 16-17 MFP program. We'll move right into, let's close the public hearing at this point.